The galaxy is in ruins as the Imperium fights for its life on multiple fronts. Xenos attack from all sides, chaos runs rampant from world to world, and traitors turn from the Emperor's light every day. Nurgle desires growth. The garden must grow.
Welcome to Talk About Tatooine. I'm Andrew.
I'm Nathan.
And we are twin brothers here to bring you what's new in nerddom and give colorful commentary on our favorite subjects. 83 episodes in, and I'm still botching the intro. Welcome to our cantina. Grab a drink and settle in as we set course for realities beyond our own.
Wow, really stepping into my lane with the whole episode number thing there, bud. Today's episode 83, everyone. Today's recording date is the 8th of August, and this episode will be released on Monday, 8/12. Today, we are discussing the Plague Wars, but first, let's start with our starter questions. We're bringing back an oldie but a goodie to kind of catch everybody up because we have solely focused in on Star Wars and Warhammer. Andrew, what hobby work have you gotten done?
Here I go killing again. So I'm so excited for this project. I'm in the process of building a Cerastus castigator. It is one of the tallest knight models you can build in Warhammer. The only thing bigger than this model in the Imperium range is a Titan. I'm so excited. It was so expensive. I traded in nearly half of my Space Marine army for store credit at my local game store for one of these models, plus some extra paint supplies. I'm so excited. I've spent 3 days trying to build it so far, time in the evening as I'm off of work, and I'm still working on it. There's so many pieces.
That's wild.
I basically just have to assemble the head and the final bits of armor. I've done the legs, the torso, and the arms. Oh my gosh, it's so cool.
Nice. I have not gotten a lot done. I've actually my office was 90% reorganized minus the one box I had to put away right before recording. So I haven't really gotten that much done. Actually, yesterday I was planning on painting while you were streaming, and I didn't get to that at all. I was actually really pissed. Anyways, we have a big conflict coming up because we are literally not like conflict of interest, but we have a Warhammer battle coming up. And I may or may not have set my sights on a new model that will rival your castigator in size.
And it's an orc? Is it a big Stompa or whatever?
Yeah, buddy. I may or may not be in the works of trying to get my hands on a Stomp.
Very cool. Very cool.
For those of you who don't know, my army is very heavily infantry based. I have a lot of boys, not a lot of elites, a few vehicles that still have yet to be built. So due to the pile of Grot tanks that are no longer acceptable in current rules, I don't have that much armor penetration anymore. So I needed to step out and find something that was a little bit more winny.
Makes sense. What kind of point values are you looking on for the Stompa?
Well, you are looking at a 30 wound model, so that's nice.
Whoa.
Yeah. For the orcs, that's a lot. How many points is the Stompa? 800 points.
Jeez, dude.
That is according to Orc Battle for Stompa Boys Reveal. That is on warhammer40kfanatics.com. I will have to look this up because 800 feels really low.
Low? I was going to say that feels kind of high, but I don't really know. We should
in a 1,000-point game, it surprises me that I would be able to field other units.
All right. I mean, it's a Titan. It's a Titan.
Yeah, but that's what we're shooting for.
Out of our next starter questions, I think this one is going to be a good one. I think you guys are going to really eat this up. Out of all the demon/traitor Primarchs, who had the most tragic fall to chaos? So we have Lorgar, Perturabo, Cruz, Horus, Angron, Mortarion, Magnus, Fulgrim, Alfarius/Omegon.
Okay, so first of all, Fulgrim and Lorgar, I don't care about at all. But for me, it's Magnus. Absolutely. Dude was out of line. Absolutely. It's one of those classic, sitcom logics. Why didn't you say what you were there for when he breaks through the Webway gate inside of the Imperial Palace, and Big E is basically hey, I'm actually going to banish you back through that hole. That was kind of a dick move. And you're yes, it was. But he didn't say hey, I'm here to warn you, and just gets blasted back, right? Either way, Magnus was going to get censured, but his entire legion might have been okay, maybe, it was inevitable that somebody in the Imperium was going to take issue with it. However, I think it's super tragic because Horus accelerated that process for his own gains. And then basically Magnus got smacked around by Russ, and the Wolves totally sacked Prospero. I thought was super tragic.
It was.
However, at the end of the day, the Emperor's vision for the Imperium was completely antithetical to how Magnus used the warp. He was a tool that was destined to be discarded. And truly, I think that hurts my heart. I think regardless of the outcome, Magnus would have been fed to the wolves.
Well, and the whole thing with like Magnus should have communicated to the Emperor that like, hey, this is why I'm like breaking in such an aggressive fashion. But the Emperor should have also told Magnus what he was doing. Like, hey, don't use the warp. Don't try to break in because I'm working on a webway. Like he didn't trust anyone other than Malkador of the knowledge of the webway. And it's like, dude, why didn't you tell anyone else? Why didn't you tell at least some of your sons that this is what you were working on? Like probably Dorn knew, but that's probably it.
It totally feeds into the conspiracy theory that the Emperor wanted the Horus Heresy to happen.
That makes me sad. That makes me really sad.
Just saying. A lot of people think that.
So to answer the question, though, I totally agree with you. Magnus mirrors the Emperor in so many ways and really only betrays Big E kind of out of circumstance rather than a burning hatred for the golden toilet seat warmer. He was legit trying to help and ends up shattering a hole in space-time like an angel appearing before the wise men screaming, "Be not afraid, Father, I have come to help." And naturally, all of the palace guards are like, yeah, you can't be here. You're letting the demons in? Bing, bang, boom. He breaks the webway gate, and now the Imperium literally has no hope of removing their reliance on traveling by Hell Rail. So...
yeah, because if that thing had been completed, then they would have been able to start building other webways with having a primary nexus point to move out from. It really is sad. Also, it could be something in the future that Warhammer explores and they're like, maybe there's other people making webway gates. Maybe parts of humanity are doing that. There's no reason why they couldn't have that. If they ever plan on digging the Imperium, I should say this, let me retrace my steps. If they ever plan on the Imperium finishing the plot and surviving and conquering the galaxy, which they won't because that doesn't make money, but if they ever did, if they wanted to truly end the setting, they would have to have the webway. Either that or the Imperium loses. Like there's no, like they're not going to fight their way out of this. Like they have to cut the warp off, and it is only when they are able to cut the warp off that they can start dealing with other foes. Because that's the only reason the Great Crusade was so effective, is because they didn't have to fight chaos almost the entire time. It just didn't work.
And then as soon as they encountered chaos, it all fell apart.
Yeah, totally hit the fan. Absolutely.
Immediately.
With that, guys, we are going to get into our main discussion today. We are going to be talking about the Plague Wars. Now, we're basically going to be doing a general overview that's going to involve the who, what, when, where, why, and how of the Plague Wars. And so that way we're giving kind of like a generalized setting, because to go into every conflict, every named character, every like bit of lore on different like troop movement and stuff like that, we would basically be breaking this up into multiple different episodes again. And you guys probably don't want to hear how many times we have to mention the Primarch of the Ultramarines name. And I know it's Andrew's goal to not say his name through this entire episode. So I'll try to stick with you as much as I can. That's where we're at.
Okay, two things. Unless you guys want us to do that, then we'll absolutely write more episodes. But two...
yes. Absolutely. It's fun.
The reason I'm not saying the Big Blueberry's name is because every time I have to edit a short and create a short and use an automatic captions feature, I have to go back and rewrite his name every single time because it never gets it right. Doesn't matter what software I'm using, it doesn't recognize RG's name. It's like, these are not real words that you are saying. Try again.
These are fantastical words, Magic Man.
Yeah, the AI is like, these are not real. I do not understand. It's like, please. Please just get it right.
With that, guys, we are going to hop in. We are going to first talk about the when. I feel like when and the Warhammer universe is probably the least consequential factor of this entire part. So this is going to be very, very short. Keep in mind that the Plague Wars started, and there is some debate on the wiki and Lexicanium of when specifically the Plague Wars started, because Nurgle uses everything via infestation and disease. So, like, we're not sure when things started to happen, and that's documented, but it for sure ended in M42, specifically 42,000, the year 42,012.
Well, in our last foray into the Dark Imperium series, we did discuss some canon conflicts to where, you know, hey, Warhammer, like the story of Warhammer has been told kind of for a long time, and there's so many different writers that sometimes they just acknowledge, they're like, hey, this is conflicting information. We know.
Absolutely. So basically, when Abaddon cracked Cadia in twain, the galaxy descended into the darkness, aka Noctis Eterna. Basically, the warp isolation and fog of war spread throughout the galaxy.
The darkness, what a dumb name. Noctis Eterna, a little bit more cool. You phrase anything in Latin and it's a little bit more cool.
Which is Latin for what? Eternal night? Way better.
We call it the night. It's like, oh, come on. This is why you're on your 13th Black Crusade, Abaddon. You suck. Okay, so we're going to get into the why. Why is Nurgle pushing into the realm of Ultramar? Why it takes a lot of energy for demons to inhabit real space. It's why they get banished back into the warp. They can't naturally be in real space. So Nurgle during this time was growing his realm, also known as the Garden, in real space. Driven by ambition, the plague vectors invaded the realm of Ultramar. The Father of Sickness was eager to build his garden and wanted to capitalize on the conflicts going on throughout the galaxy and take Ultramar. It's a big target. You could probably poison a lot of people and make a lot of new diseases, considering Ultramar is so well populated. Things were, and still are, in an uproar, and if you're going to wage war with the premier power in the galaxy, do it while they're fighting a war on multiple fronts. It makes perfect sense. Why was Ultramar a target? In a previous episode, we talked about how the Forces of Chaos knew something was amiss in Ultramar, but didn't know exactly what that was. Hence, the invasion happened in one of the strongest areas in the Imperium outside of the Segmentum Solar.
Then we get into who is involved with this whole mess. So the main primary factions that are going to be in this war are going to be the Forces of Chaos against the Forces of Imperium. Chaos, specifically the faction of Nurgle, then deeply descending into Death Guard. I actually wrote this out as if you were accessing files, and I'm like, you're going to want to first select Chaos, and then select Nurgle, and then under that, you're going to select Death Guard. Under that, you have your attacking commanders, Mortarion, Typhus, Kugath, Epidemius, Septicus, and Qaramar. Other than Qaramar, it's Qaramar. I don't know how to pronounce that.
I definitely read that as Quagmire. 100%.
So other than Quagmire, thank you, Andrew, Epidemus and Septicus are like they're really unoriginal with the names here. Like Epidemus is like the epidemic, Septicus, septic, Mortarion.
I don't get it.
It's all Latin for like sickness stuff. They're basically like, hey, if we can take poop, death, and decay and put it into words, we will. That being said, I don't know what Kugath is supposed to be, but Kugath is the great unclean one that is in this conflict. So basically the big old boy who is super happy to spread Papa Nurgle's plagues.
So if you were to make the Plague Wars in like Battle Scribe, would this be Death Guard with Chaos Demons as an ally, or would it be Chaos Demons with Death Guard as an ally?
That's actually kind of a hard one, because I feel like the Death Guard don't actually take like, for sure, Mortarion takes the primary role as like overall commander. Majority of the forces are forces of Nurgle. You know what? I would say Death Guard's the primary. Death Guard with a auxiliary or a detachment of Chaos Demons, because that's just like, that's how the main setting points take place. Is the Death Guard is driving new infections, incursions, and battlefronts.
Well, and you got to remember, if you were to take a unit of Poxwalkers on the battlefield, it's going to be a blob of 20, whereas a unit of Blightlord Terminators is a unit of 3.
Only 3?
Yeah, they come in 3s.
Nice.
One for each little circle of Nurgle, I think. I don't know.
Oh, that's incredibly iconic. I love it.
Well, and especially if Mortarion's your warlord. That's a Death Guard army.
For sure. All right, you have a lot of notes on this. I'm excited to hear it.
There are few beings in the galaxy more terrifying than the diseased visage of Mortarion the Pale King. Growing up in the noxious fog-wreathed fortress on his homeworld of Barbarous, the Death Lord seemed fated to become the chosen one out of all of the Emperor's sons to be picked by the god of disease and plagues. You could see this one coming from a mile away.
Right on the nose.
Right, it's pretty on the nose. The Death Guard, this is before their stinky emo phase, would huff and purposely take chemicals and poisons in order to build immunity to different poisons. Think of the Dread Pirate Roberts. To add on to the irony, Mortarion was an avid opponent of those who practiced warpcraft and was a strong supporter of the Emperor and his edict at Nicaea. He wasn't a strong supporter of the Emperor in general, he just supported that one decision. Overall, he actually hated the Emperor because he was super bitter, because the Emperor basically robbed him of the chance to kill the ruler of Barbarous before he had been rescued. Very similar to Angron, actually. As fate would have it, Mortarion and his fleet were swept up into the grasp of the grandfather, and the Prince of Decay was made into, well, the Prince of Decay. Elevated to the vaulted ranks of Demon Prince and Demon Primarch of Nurgle, Mortarion's ascension brought him and his legion an ironic level of power. Everything that had made the Death Guard who they were was now corrupted to chaos and basically caricatured to their logical extreme. Before, the Death Guard drank poison. Now, they literally are poison. Mortarion before never trusted psychers. Now he's one of the strongest psychers in the galaxy. Before, his legion was immune to disease. Now his plague marines are walking factories of fetid filth and putrid pestilence. It's a little on the nose, is all I'm saying. So, how exactly did all of this happen? Magnus was forced to follow the path of Tzeentch to save his sons. Fulgrim was tainted by a horny sword and slithered down the path of Slaanesh. Lorgar was, and remains to be, a Angron probably needed no convincing whatsoever and answered the first Cornate telemarketer to hail his astro-telepathic relay. Horus the Archtraitor was corrupted from outside his legion by Erebus, may he burn in hell forever, but Morty was corrupted from inside his legion when his son, his first Captain Typhon, now Typhus, who continued to practice his arcane art even under the Edict of Nicaea, was corrupted by Papa Nurgs. He then assassinated Mortarion's astropathic choir and essentially piloted their ship through the wrong neighborhood in the warp with the windows down.
Those are some heavy hitters. Most legions don't travel alone. The Death Guard were accompanied by their Plague Fleet, Nurglite, Chaos Space Marines, Plague Zombies, Cults of Decay, and in the coming conflicts, Legio Mortis, OF, and Legio Pestis, which again, super on the note. Pestilence,
Super
Pestis, Legio Mortis, Death Legion. Come on, guys.
But the Legio Mortis was like the most like powerful of the Titan legions during the Horus Heresy. Like they survived the Titan death on Beta Garmin, and they made it to the Siege of Terra and just tore it up, and apparently still survived that too. Did the Dies Irae survive the Siege of Terra?
I don't know. I haven't gotten that far yet.
I haven't either.
I have so many books to buy, and it's a
gosh.
problem for my wallet, which is why you all need to support on Patreon. Thank you.
Support us on Patreon so we can buy the books. Thank you. We should make like a list where people can just like buy us books if they want to.
Oh, there's services for that. We can incorporate that as a thing for our Twitch.
Yeah, be like, cool, buy us a book. Because so many people in the comments of our thing be like, you should read this book. It's like, listen, I'm trying. I can only read and listen to one book at a time. I can't have 2 earbuds in listening to 2 different books. It's physically not possible. Relax. I'm trying my hardest. We are in, I think, the 33rd week of this year, and I have read 34 books this year.
That's pretty good.
Pretty good. It's not bad. It's not bad. Not all of them are Warhammer. I try to diversify the books that I'm reading, but about 25% of them are just Warhammer books.
Gotcha.
Imperial forces, so we're now on the loyalist side of things. Boo! Imperial forces involving the Ultramarines, including 2 of their successor chapters. One is the Genesis chapter and also the Nova Marines. The commanders, which are the main characters of the Loyalists, RG, I didn't say his name, Marnius Calgar. Oh Lord, how do I pronounce this? Euroloid?
Euroloid. Or Orloid?
Orloid? That's a fun noise. He is the chapter master of the Genesis chapter, and then Barden Devaro, chapter master of the Nova Marines. Forces allied with them included Imperial Knights, Grey Knights. Grey Knights are super good at killing demons. Imperial Navy, Ultramar PDF, or the Planetary Defense Force, Legio Fortis, Ataris, Oberon, and Praetor.
I don't know, man.
Titans!
4 Titan legions against 2 sounds like bad odds. Except you have to keep in mind that basically all the forces of Nurgle cheat in any of their conflicts, which is actually what we're going to get into now. So now we're entering into the what/how. Not only was the forces of Nurgles coming out in force, but the tactics that Papa Pestilence was oozing its way into its Imperium were quite dirty. Nurgle tends to take an area and sit on it for a bit. There's a classic ebb and flow for battle. Weaken the enemy with disease, and then obliterate them with resilient troops and mass poxwalkers. Once conquered, things begin to stew. Among the scourge stars, Nurgle begins his brew. Several deadly diseases, and these are taken from the wiki, I kid you not, are crawling pustulence, not pestilence, pustulence, gross, eye rot, the plague that walks, and oozing pox. All of these unleashed upon Imperial forces. Imperial forces had essentially been gradually depleted in these areas due to 12 years of the Indominus Crusade that had previously gone on before this, and now they're getting hit with diseases and the troops that follow.
So let's talk a little bit about Typhus. Typhus, now Chaos Lord and Champion of Nurgle, he's going to be very important to the how of the Plague War, also known as the War of the Flies. Are those terms interchangeable?
Sort of.
Okay.
So basically they kind of gave a slang name for the Plague Wars inside it because Imperial forces were fighting these flies so often because they would accompany Nurglite forces that they were basically like, this is the War of the Flies now because we're tired of shooting these things out of the air.
I remember that being a problem in the Siege of Terra as well. Anytime the Death Guard showed up, like everyone would like, all our people are sick and dying because they don't care about chemical warfare. They are chemical warfare. Anyway, Typhus, now Chaos Lord and Champion of Nurgle, led his plague fleet into the realm of Ultramar and systematically wiped out Ultramar's defense fleet and their star fortresses. The tax dollars of the people gone to waste. Embattled across different battlefronts, the forces of Nurgle used a variety of tactics to bring down the Imperium. Some Death Guard forces were small, even just down to a few squads. These forces were not meant to attack the forces of the Imperium, but to seed disease and corruption that would break down their minds and their bodies. Chemical warfare. On other fronts, entire companies, also known as vectorums, get it, plague vectors, disease vectors, attacked large sections of Ultramar defense meant to bring it all down.
At this point, it took massive Ultramarine intervention for the lines to hold. Often outnumbered, the forces of the Imperium would have to gun down scores of enemies to survive. You also have the bug problem, which we mentioned earlier. This conflict earned the name the War of Flies because the constant presence of biting insects wherever Nurgle forces were present. When the Death Guard were not attacking, it was noted that the Imperial lines would encounter daily assaults from plague zombies, usually reanimated from their fallen friends and allies. So when the Death Guard were not attacking, they were like, it doesn't matter, we have zombies to do the rest of our work for us, which has basically like almost completely broke the Imperial morale because the Death Guard get to recover, the Imperial forces did not.
It's like that one modifier when you're playing Brutal Plus in StarCraft, where all of your units spawn zombies after they die, and you have to kill everything like 3 times over. It's very fun.
Oh, it's so
It's hard. It was only RG's intervention and his Spear of Espendor counterattacked that stopped the press of Death Guard forces. Great. RG comes in to save the day. Whoop-de-frickin-do.
Which we did mention in a previous episode when we,
We did.
first mentioned the Plague Wars. We're like, hey, by the way, the Realm of Ultramar only survived because G-Man came in and pushed them back.
Was that also because the Eldar told them, like, hey, you're going to get overrun? Or was that when they were fighting the Tyranids?
No. The Eldar were more involved in the Tyranid conflict, I think.
Gotcha.
I cannot remember if the Eldar were involved in this conflict, but I'm going to go on a limb and say no, because I don't remember reading about it.
Gotcha. The Eldar are weirdly entangled with the Imperium at this point in the story. It makes me very confused because the Imperium is so famously intolerant that I'm like, but they're getting help from aliens. It doesn't bother me. I'm just confused where their priorities are at.
If everyone would just get really cool about some things really quick, we wouldn't have a problem.
I'm thinking of some very NSFW memes that came up while I was making a lot of shorts involving RG and his girlfriend. They came up unprompted, mind you.
Oh yeah, because Warhammer fans are super horny. Which, aside, by the way, you said backshots in our last episode on accident.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
No, please no.
And it's in there.
No!
I laughed so hard.
Why can't I be normal for 5 seconds?
Speaking of seconds, I may have missed 2 F words when I was censoring, because I was literally editing, and I was just like, my eyes would just be like, like I was falling asleep, which is funny because I listened to the episode again today, and I was like, oh, this is a pretty good episode. Like, we did a good job on this. And then it was like, and I was like, but I missed those. So that's a bummer. I'll do better. I know all of my now take place between minute 30 and 32, so I will. You're going to hear a lot of blurb beeps, guys. I'm so sorry for my bad editing skills. I apologize. Our last episode does probably need to be marked as explicit. I should just mark them all as explicit just to cover my bases.
Yeah, maybe we probably should just be like, yeah, these are restricted now.
Which, fun fact, I have actually noticed other podcasts that have done that before. I'll be like listening to something and they'll bleep something multiple times and then they'll drop again, and I'm like, you did the same thing and you pay people to edit this. I feel a lot better about myself.
I'm not a paid employee and you made the same mistake.
Yeah, it does happen.
Vindication.
I was super vindicated, absolutely. With all that, guys, we're going to roll this on back, and Andrew, keep talking to us about the fighting at Lax.
Okay, fighting came to a standstill at Lax because it was lax, they were relaxed. A garden world rendered lifeless by the conflict. Knowing that victory had slipped away, Mortarion detonated a virus bomb that turned this once verdant planet into a husk and escaped back into the Plague Stars. What a sore loser.
He really is. He's literally like, well, I'm not going to win this, so like I'm still going to make you lose, though. So here's a virus bomb.
I'm going to take my ball and go home. That is my impression of Mortarion. It was actually the combined effort of RG and Khorne that got Mortarion to retreat. I just have to say, the Chaos Gods are so petty. The stalwart defense of the Imperium and an attack on Nurgle's garden from Khorne demanded a retreat. So in the warp, Khorne decided to take on his... Like, the Chaos Gods are not friends. They hate each other. And so I'm guessing it's because, like, was it because Nurgle was, like, occupied in the realm of Ultramar that Khorne is like, this is a great time to attack?
It was an attack of opportunity. Basically, they call this the Great Game between the Chaos Gods, and they're constantly fighting each other to take territory and gain power. They're a bunch of petty.
This had to be this had to be how the Emperor stole all his power from the Chaos Gods. He probably just pit them against each other, snuck into one of their lairs, grabbed some magical artifact, and absorbed its power. And he's like, oh, look, now I'm a god.
100%. And then just walked out.
And just walked out. So what are you going to do about it? And it took them thousands of years to take him down. And they still didn't quite get the job done.
Coming up next, guys, we're going to talk about the where of this entire conflict. So we've mentioned the realm of Ultramar and actually the Scourge Stars several times, and so we're going to go over what those are. So this conflict, keep in mind, took place across an entire subsector involving the realm of Ultramar inside the Ultima Segmentum, which is the galactic east of Segmentum Solar, which is where Earth/Terra is. The attacking forces mostly came from the Scourge Stars, an area of real space that formerly included 3 Imperial systems. These systems were corrupted by Nurgle and now are under the Pestilence control of Mr. Nurgle. Basically, he's like, these are part of my garden now, and I'm going to use these to brew diseases. The names of these systems are right on the nose of Noxious, Verminox, and Rotgrave. Those are the real names of the systems.
Well, I'm almost wondering, I'm like, these had to have been renamed by Mortarion, right?
That is what I found.
It's like, come on, guys.
Slight aside, guys. I waffle back and forth between really liking the naming conventions of Warhammer 40k and then thinking they're like way too much on the nose. Like basically everything the Death Guard does, they're like, hey, take a buzzword for like pestilence, disease, and death, and then turn that into a Latin root, and then add US at the end of it, and that's basically like how they get their words. So that being said, I know like the authors have a lot of material to work with, but I will say that they do a good job creating a tone for the setting that matches the forces involved. So bravo to them.
Yeah, it's tonally consistent for sure, but like at the same time, like especially if these planets were named before Nurgle took them over, it's sort of like naming your planet Bombus Deathicus and be like, I can't believe Chaos came and bombed our planet to death. It's like, well, you named it Bombus Deathicus. What did you think was going to happen?
The systems contaminated during all these systems in the Plague Stars were contaminated during Noctis Eterna, when Seeds of Chaos basically decided to take hold across the galaxy. The Scourge Stars operated as a rallying point for the Plague Wars, for it to begin in the first place. Eventually, the Scourge Stars were invaded by competing Chaos forces in the continuing Great Game of Chaos.
Did you say Scourge Stars?
Scourge Stars? I might have. I'll go back and listen to it.
Oh my goodness.
Keep going. We're going to finish this episode in a reasonable amount of time.
What in the silly goose was that? Okay. My dog hates when I make that noise because he's a bird dog. He's like, Dad, what the heck are you doing? His ears go up and he's like, is there an injured duck somewhere?
Where the is that goose? And he's like, oh no, it's my father.
Okay, we can get through this. Okay, the outcome. It is recorded that tens of millions were lost on both sides. That's not a sentence you want to laugh through.
Yeah, wow, totally deaf, bro. Nailed it first try.
I'm not retaking it. This was considered a Pyrrhic victory, one that came at great cost, very similar to conflicts surrounding the Tyranids as well, where they lost, entire first companies and stuff.
Couple of planets,
Whole planets, big whoop, we got extras. After the retreat of Mortarion, RG ordered the reinforcement of the decimated areas and the decontamination of Ultramar. Oh, so now it's okay to not exterminate us a planet when it's yours. Whatever. I want to be able to see these campaigns in Space Marine 2. It would be so cool if they did a DLC for each of the Chaos Gods. Like, oh, now it's a Nurgle invasion. Now it's a Khorne invasion.
That would be so cool.
Maybe don't do a Slaanesh invasion. Maybe keep that one off the books.
No, do it. Send the Slaanesh invasion. It's what we all want to see.
My character's name is Bonk, and I'm only going to be using the Thunderhammer. It's the only appropriate bonking weapon. Uh, I know this isn't where the game is set, but how cool would it be to add Nurgle forces into a PvE mode and fight off waves and waves of plague zombies? This is basically like taking the Dark Tide narrative and moving it into the realm of Ultramar. All the pieces, they're right there. Please, Focus Entertainment, do your thing, please.
Guys, that is our very, very short and quick and dirty, very, very dirty, so dirty, so dirty overview of the Plague Wars. Now, coming up, we're going to go into the news from the HoloNet. We have quite a few things to chat about concerning movies, games, nerddom, and some of the games that we plan on streaming. All right, so we're going to talk about Helldivers, guys. If you guys don't know, the Helldivers Escalation of Freedom patch is out as of today. Keep in mind, we have a new difficulty level, guys, and this is level 10, Super Helldive. The Impaler is also back from Helldive 1. Think Ground Kraken, Sarlacc Pit, etc. Basically, add tentacles into Helldivers and you're going to have a good time. They look shockingly similar to the tentacles you fight in Borderlands 2 against Terramorphous the Invincible. Wow, we have some words to say about Borderlands later in this episode too. And that makes me want to just spew expletives. It's fine. What you're also going to see are Spore Chargers, which basically obscure their own location and then run you over. Super not excited about that. We also have a Terminid Alpha Commander. That's always hard to say. Basically a beefed up version of the Brood Commander. The bots are getting a rocket tank because why not? They don't have enough tanks yet. They also have the Rocket Devastators. So with Rocket Devastators and tanks, yeah, that's not going to be annoying at all. Other bot surprises are also set to roll out as well, but we don't have all of them yet. Some images are teasing rocket troops and some sort of heavy weapons flying into battle. Some of you guys have hopefully seen this. I haven't even unlocked this mode yet because my computer's a hot piece of trash, and I need you guys to subscribe on Patreon so we can do higher quality streams, please and thank you.
It's like, please help us. Several weapons also got corresponding buffs and nerfs ahead of the new Warbond. The Slugger got what I think is a buff. It's got increased stagger, but also has increased spread and drag. Okay, if it's a shotgun shooting a slug, why would it have an increased spread?
That would only be like, so you have the spread of a shotgun, and then the only thing I can think of is that putting it in a solid slug is that the overall range of where it can actually hit based on where you point it is larger. Like, yes, a shotgun is going to hit more things inside of that spread, but the slug, I don't actually know if that's accurate or not because I don't shoot shotguns that much anymore, so I'm not entirely sure how that works. So,
yeah, I'm not sure. It sounds like a nerf, which isn't great because the slugger's kind of not great. It's not super viable on higher difficulties, in my opinion. I don't like it that much, so it needs a buff. The Breaker Incendiary got hit pretty hard. It went from 6 mags to 4 mags, and they increased the recoil. The GP31, which is the grenade pistol, went down to 6 mags instead of 8. However, you do restock more ammo. When you pick up ammo, you get 4 instead of 2. The crossbow is one-handed now. Cool, still sucks. The Guard Dog went from 6 mags to 8 mags, and allows you to resupply from ammo boxes. So this is actually a useful backpack now. It was not before. It was a total piece of trash. Now it's probably useful. The orbital walking barrage salvos have moved from 3 to 5, and they decreased the movement speed by 40%. This is a definite buff.
Nice.
Another buff from the massive orbital strike is the 120 meter strike, not millimeter. It got a cooldown from 240 seconds to 180 seconds. That's a whole minute.
Wait, it's a 120 meter or millimeter? Are you correcting yourself on the units here?
It's 120 meter.
So it's describing the area it covers, not the size of the ballistic?
Yep.
That seems odd, but okay.
It's they have the 380 and the 120. I'm actually not I'm definitely second guessing myself.
It is 120 millimeter. It is the size of the round.
Oh, okay. So the 100.
I was like, that's not right. No. I'm just gonna fact check this real quick.
Okay, so the 120 millimeter. There's fucking idiot. I'm sorry, you're going to have to bleep so much of that out. 120 millimeter went from 240 seconds to 180. They reduced the time between salvos. So that's a huge buff. That's a massive buff. They reduced the gunship patrols in quantity and frequency, and they're easier to kill. Shields now block sandstorms and snowstorms, both the portable and deployable kind. And then they also added in, this is kind of a big item, a grief protection system that allows kicked players to continue their own mission after they've been kicked, so they can still gain full rewards. So if you get kicked at the very end of a mission, you're not out of luck.
So it basically just punches you into a single player map of a duplicate game, essentially.
It sounds like it, yeah.
That's probably pretty good, because then it doesn't, people still get the rewards, but like if people are being bad teammates, like, yeah, you're gonna get kicked. So
But the thing is this this lessens the punishment for players who are legitimately awful, but also makes it so people who are just like, hey man, one of my friends just hopped on, I need to make room and I need to kick somebody, I'm sorry, like you just get kicked by random. We've had to do it a lot.
And when it's good teammates, you're like, sorry man, you gotta go. Am friend? No.
Am friend? It's like, don't make this harder.
If you guys have seen that meme, it's fantastic. It's just a bunch of screenshots and it's brutal. Man, it tells a story.
Oh, it tell a story in 12 words. I need to kick you. Am friend?
Sorry, friend. Don't make this harder.
Oh, but the thing is if you still are playing with crappy people, go to your recent players tab and report them. You could still do that.
That's fair.
Which you should still be doing anyway.
Come next year, guys, if you guys haven't seen, there was a lot of news that came out of San Diego Comic-Con, including trailers for several things that I'm going to list off right now, including Rings of Power Season 2, DC's Creature Commandos, Marvel Rivals, Transformers 1, TMNT, Walking Dead spinoffs, Doctor Who, and probably the biggest reveal that everyone has seen up to this point is Robert Downey Jr. taking up the mantle of Victor Von Doom. Many of you have seen this already, and honestly, I'm stoked for it. I think our DJ is going to make a fantastic Doctor Doom.
I totally disagree. I think he's...
You can shut your whore mouth. That's what you can do.
Jeez, dude. Oh, gosh.
Guys, my brother is not a whore. Don't worry.
Just to clarify, we don't talk like that to anybody else.
We only disrespect each other.
We only disrespect each other. We're going to talk about the Agents of the Imperium Codex that just came out. The Inquisition is getting its own codex. If you don't know, the Inquisition is broken up into three portions. The Ordo Hereticus, they hunt traitors. The Malleus, they hunt demons. And the Ordo Xenos, they hunt aliens. This now allows your roster a fuller complement of agents. You can include a full Deathwatch contingent in your Imperial army. Dope. You can also field an entire army of Imperial agents, now choosing from one of the three Ordos, or a fourth option that includes Imperial Navy support. Sweet! The box sets are separated into three battle sets, one for each of the Ordos. You'll see a common thread of inquisitorial characters and supporting models, with the Ordo Xenos running with Deathwatch Marines, the Ordo Malleus running with Grey Knights, and the Ordo Hereticus running with Sisters of Battle, because you have to burn the traitors at the stake.
Absolutely. Do you think the Imperium is the same way to their Navy that we are to ours, where something happens and they're like, don't touch my boats?
Probably.
I'm if you guys don't know, I'm quoting Mandatory Fun Day because he shows up in my feed
all
the time because I work with soldiers. Funny. And like, again, Instagram is super creepy. So like once it knew I was like working with the military, it started feeding me stuff all the time. And it was like, oh yeah, you're a grunt now. And I'm like, no, I'm not. That's not what I do.
Boy, howdy, do we have some Zin memes for you.
Indeed.
Forgive me, Father, for I have zinned.
How are you benching that much? I have 12 Zins up my To be fair, Mandatory Fun Day is actually like a really funny and creative person. And also
so funny.
Like just he's like pretty strong. Like That's nothing to sneeze at, especially if you sneezed, all the Zin packets would come out.
Just a shotgun shell of Zin.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've completely gone off the rails. Let me finish with these guys. Deadpool and Wolverine came out. I saw it, and Borderlands.
Oh, you got to see it? Is it good?
It was good. You will very much enjoy it. I might have to cut that. Do I have to bleep?
You should. Yeah, you should.
Okay, I will. And a disturbing piece of news that I saw today is that the Borderlands movie is looking to be a huge flop. Even some places giving it a 0% rating.
It's like, yeah, no it's a flop. It looks terrible.
Yeah, they cast Kevin Hart as Roland. This is what I've been saying. He's not a good Roland.
Oh my gosh. It doesn't make any sense.
It's the dumbest thing.
Roland is like 7 feet tall in the game. They're like, who is black and super tall? Kevin Hart.
Kevin Hart. And I'm like, you could have picked like a serious character. Even Dwayne The Rock Johnson would have done a better job. Although Roland dies in the video game. Spoiler alerts, the game's super old. I'm not worried about it. So how are they going to play that off? I don't know. Spoiler fact, if you guys don't know, Lilith is actually the main character. You had to think about that one for a second, didn't you?
I was like the first Borderlands. What happened in that one?
That's fair. A huge tentacle monster at the end. Anyways, guys, we're going to wrap this up. Huge thanks to our patrons, Mike, Isaac, David, and biggest supporter over on Twitch, Calm Brew. You guys are the reason we do it, and you guys are super fun to have in Discord chat. So when we say weird and unhinged stuff, you guys are right here for it. So for just $5 a month, you guys can support us here at Talk About Tatooine so we can do more awesome things like giveaways. We just gave away 2 lightsabers. We're thinking about doing some more giveaways involving Space Marine 2 and some other game codes. More to come on that. We haven't fully fleshed out those ideas. We also do things like gaming events. We're planning on doing a Rocket League tourney, and we honestly could really use the support in putting into higher quality content. I would really like to be able to buy a new PC for better streaming and editing. That would be super nice. Basically, we can't do that without support. We do not get ad support, so we need that money from Patreon. However, if you are not somebody that can support us at $5 a month, that's okay. Watch our stuff on YouTube, subscribe, and tell a friend. Literally, that costs you nothing. But eventually, if we hit those milestones, we can start making money off YouTube, and we can keep sending this thing forward. So thank you guys for watching. Please consider supporting us. We would love to hear what you guys are up to. Keep commenting on our videos. We really like the positive comments. We engage with those. We don't engage with the trolls because of their weird... Andrew, you were explaining me some ecosystem things that I did not know about earlier, and I was shocked. And anyways, it doesn't surprise me at all. Anyways.
This isn't a bridge. I don't have to answer your riddles.
What a great zinger for the end. Guys, share this feed with your friends. Like it, comment, seriously, send it to a friend. And until next time, Papa Nurgle's the best. The Emperor sucks. Bleh.
That was fun.